The young Princess Leora stood at the balcony of the royal palace, looking out at the purple sky of Virelia. The sun, a soft silver orb, hung low, casting long shadows across the city of spired towers and floating gardens. Her violet eyes reflected the light, but inside her heart felt heavy. She had grown up in the palace surrounded by luxury, servants, and guards, but no one had ever truly understood her. Her parents, the king and queen, wished for her to marry a strong and capable suitor, someone who could help rule the kingdom. Yet every time a candidate arrived, Leora found herself disappointed. For years, aliens from different worlds had come to seek her hand. They had strange powers and remarkable skills. Some could bend gravity to their will. Others could manipulate energy in ways humans could not even imagine. Many had sharp minds and a few had great strength. Yet when it came to Leora herself, each one faltered. They were intimidated by her intelligence or confused by her curiosity. Others simply could not connect with her. She was not a prize to be won, but a person to be known. The palace was a hive of whispers. Courtiers discussed the suitors with excitement and anxiety. "The prince from Andorra has arrived," one would say. "He can lift 10 times his own weight," another would boast. But even with these demonstrations of power, Leora's expression remained calm and thoughtful. She listened politely, but no one had yet earned her respect. She wanted more than strength or magic. She wanted someone who could see her heart. The young princess had learned patience. She had grown used to the procession of guests, the polite bows, the grand displays of talent. But the loneliness she felt inside was real. She longed for a friend, a companion, someone she could trust. Despite the palace's grandeur, Leora often wandered alone in the gardens, touching the soft petals of alien flowers and listening to the hum of the floating gardens. She found comfort in these quiet moments, but she wondered if someone would ever understand her completely. One day, during a grand ceremony, the royal court gathered in the central hall. Alien dignitaries had arrived from many planets, each hoping to impress the princess. The hall was enormous, with ceilings that shimmered like liquid starlight. The floor was made of polished crystal, reflecting the colors of the sky above. Leora stood at the center, dressed in a gown that sparkled faintly, yet her eyes were thoughtful and distant. She watched the suitors carefully. The first to approach was a tall, silver-skinned alien with eyes that glowed like amber. He moved with the grace of a predator, demonstrating his power by lifting a floating crystal ball and spinning it above his head. The court murmured in admiration. Yet when he tried to speak with Leora, he stumbled. He could not match her intelligence. His words were sharp but empty. Leora nodded politely but felt no connection. Next came a blue-skinned alien whose body radiated energy. He created sparks of light that danced around his fingers, forming shapes and patterns that dazzled everyone. Yet when he attempted to engage Leora in conversation, he grew impatient. He expected her to be amazed by his display, but she asked questions he could not answer. Frustration clouded his eyes, and he left in a hurry, unable to understand why the princess was not impressed. One by one, other suitors tried and failed. Some were gentle and kind, but too shy to meet her eyes. Others were bold and powerful, but prideful and harsh. Leora observed them all with quiet dignity. She realized that none of them had the patience to see her as a person, not just a princess. She felt a mixture of sadness and hope. Perhaps one day someone different would come, someone who could understand her heart. That day came unexpectedly. A human arrived from a distant planet called Earth, a world few in the galaxy had ever visited. His name was Elias. Unlike the other suitors, he did not display magical powers or incredible strength. He wore simple clothing and his movements were ordinary. At first, the court laughed quietly. How could a human hope to impress a princess used to alien wonders? But Elias did not seem nervous. He approached Leora calmly, his eyes steady and kind. He greeted her with respect, bowing slightly. He did not speak of his powers because he had none. Instead, he asked questions about her life, her interests, and her thoughts. Leora was surprised. For the first time, someone spoke to her as an equal, not as a prize or a challenge. She found herself smiling quietly. The court whispered in disbelief. "The human has no skills," some muttered. "He cannot possibly compete," others said. But Leora felt a spark of curiosity and hope. She wanted to know more about him. She listened as he spoke about Earth, about humans, about the ways they solved problems without magic or superpowers. He told stories of courage, kindness, and persistence. His words were simple, but they carried a weight of truth and sincerity that no alien suitor had ever shown. As the day passed, Leora found herself drawn to Elias. She saw in him qualities that she valued: honesty, patience, and a willingness to listen. Unlike the other suitors, he did not try to dazzle or intimidate her. He treated her as a person, not a princess to be won. Leora realized that she had been waiting for someone exactly like him. By evening, the sky of Viralia turned a deep violet, and the floating gardens glowed softly in the twilight. Leora walked alongside Elias through the palace corridors, feeling a lightness she had not known before. The court continued their whispers, but Leora did not care. For the first time, she felt understood, and she sensed that Elias might be the companion she had been waiting for all her life. As the stars appeared in the sky, Leora knew that her life was about to change. The human who had come quietly without powers or displays had already captured her attention and her heart. She did not yet know if he could succeed in the trials set by her parents. But she felt certain of one thing: he was different, and that difference mattered more than anything else. Leora returned to her balcony that night, gazing at the silver sun now hidden beneath the horizon. She felt a sense of hope she had never felt before. Perhaps this human, ordinary in appearance but extraordinary in spirit, could bring something new to her life. Perhaps at last someone had come who could see her for who she truly was, and not for the title she held or the power she did not have. And so, as the night settled over the palace, Leora waited with quiet anticipation, ready to discover the story that this human would write beside her, a story that no alien suitor had ever dared to imagine. The next morning, the palace was alive with excitement and tension. The arrival of the human, Elias, had caused a stir among the court. While some courtiers whispered doubts, others watched him with quiet curiosity. Today was the day the king would announce the trials, tests meant to measure courage, wisdom, and loyalty, qualities necessary for anyone who wished to marry the princess. No human had ever attempted these trials before, and many doubted Elias could succeed. Leora watched from her balcony as Elias stood in the courtyard, waiting calmly. Unlike the alien suitors who often displayed pride and impatience, Elias remained quiet and focused. He had no magic, no super strength, no extraordinary powers. All he had was his mind, his courage, and a calm heart. He did not seem intimidated by the towering alien structures or the shimmering energy that filled the palace grounds. The king appeared, his presence commanding and solemn. "Elias," he said, his deep voice echoing across the courtyard, "these trials are not for the faint of heart. They will test your strength, your intelligence, and your character. If you fail, you will leave our palace. If you succeed, you may continue your journey with Princess Leora." Elias nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty," he replied. His voice was steady, filled with quiet determination. Leora's heart lifted at his calmness. She had feared he might be overwhelmed, but he seemed ready. The first trial was physical. The participants had to cross a field filled with shifting platforms, floating stones, and streams of glowing liquid. The platforms moved in unpredictable patterns, and a single misstep could send a contestant into the water below. Alien suitors leapt with grace and precision, using their powers to glide or fly. Elias, however, had no such advantages. He watched the patterns carefully, calculating his moves. Step by step, he balanced carefully, testing each platform before placing his full weight on it. The crowd gasped as he nearly slipped at one point, but he caught himself with a steady hand. Where aliens soared easily, Elias moved with determination. He did not rush, he did not panic. Slowly, he made his way across the field, step by careful step. When he reached the other side, the princess smiled softly. She had expected him to falter, but he had shown courage and patience. The second trial tested intelligence. Participants were presented with a series of complex puzzles that combined logic, memory, and alien energy manipulation. Aliens with natural abilities often solved these puzzles instantly. Elias had no magic, yet he approached each challenge with focus. He observed the patterns, noticed connections, and tried different approaches. Sometimes he failed, but he learned quickly from his mistakes. At one point, a puzzle required him to redirect streams of energy to light up a pattern in the air. The streams moved unpredictably, and it seemed impossible for a human to succeed. But Elias stayed calm. He watched carefully, adjusted his strategy, and finally managed to complete the pattern. The crowd murmured in astonishment. While others had powers to achieve the task, Elias had relied solely on observation, logic, and patience. Leora's admiration grew. The third trial was a test of character. Participants had to make decisions in simulated situations designed to reveal their loyalty, honesty, and compassion. One scenario presented a trapped alien creature in danger. Some suitors ignored it, focusing only on completing the task quickly. Elias, however, paused. He rescued the creature, ensuring it was safe before continuing. Another scenario involved choosing between personal gain and helping a struggling villager. Elias chose to help even though it slowed him down. By the end of the day, the trials had shown something remarkable. Elias had no powers, no extraordinary abilities, yet he had succeeded in ways the other suitors had not. He had shown patience, intelligence, courage, and compassion. Leora realized that the qualities she admired were not about strength or magic, but about heart and character. That evening, the court gathered in the great hall to hear the king's judgment. Aliens who had previously been confident now looked uneasy. They had expected Elias to fail, yet he had passed every trial. The princess stood beside him, her expression calm but filled with quiet pride. The king cleared his throat. "Elias," he said, "you have faced the trials with patience, intelligence, and honor. You have shown that true strength is not only in power but in courage, wisdom, and kindness. You may continue your journey with Princess Leora." The hall erupted in whispers. Some aliens were shocked. Others watched silently, realizing they had underestimated the human. Leora turned to Elias, her eyes bright. "I knew there was something special about you," she said softly. "You see the world differently. You see people differently. That is why I trust you." Elias smiled humbly. "I am honored, Princess," he said. "I only hope to continue learning and to serve with respect." In the days that followed, Leora and Elias spent time together exploring the palace and the floating gardens. She showed him the traditions of Viralia, the stories of her ancestors, and the wonders of her world. He shared stories of Earth, of humans who faced challenges without powers but with courage and perseverance. They laughed together, discussed ideas, and grew to understand each other deeply. The palace staff and the court began to notice the bond forming between them. Aliens who had once mocked Elias now watched with curiosity and admiration. The princess's parents, though cautious at first, began to see his true value. They realized that the human's ordinary appearance hid extraordinary qualities that could not be measured by magic or strength alone. One evening, as the twin moons of Viralia rose in the sky, casting a gentle silver glow over the palace, Leora and Elias walked through the gardens. Flowers with glowing petals swayed gently in the breeze, and soft streams reflected the light of the moons. Leora turned to Elias and smiled. "You have changed everything," she said. "You have shown me that the heart matters more than any power or skill." Elias took her hand gently. "And you have shown me a world I never imagined," he replied. "I want to understand it, and I want to understand you." For the first time, Leora felt a sense of peace. She had watched countless suitors, each trying to impress her with powers and displays. None had touched her heart. But this human, with no extraordinary gifts, had shown her patience, courage, and respect. He had faced the impossible, and emerged stronger in ways that mattered most. As the stars shone above, Leora realized that her journey with Elias was just beginning. Together, they would face challenges, learn from each other, and perhaps show the galaxy that true connection was not about power or appearance, but about understanding, kindness, and courage. That night, as the palace settled into quiet, Leora returned to her balcony, watching the moons rise. She felt hope for the first time in years. The human who had come quietly, without fanfare or magic, had captured her attention, her admiration, and most importantly, her trust. And so the story of the princess and the human continued, a story that would change not only their lives but the hearts of those around them, teaching that true courage and love could come from the most unexpected places. The morning sun rose over the floating towers of Virelia, painting the sky in shades of violet and silver. The palace was alive with energy as courtiers, diplomats, and curious onlookers prepared for another day of observation. Elias had passed the initial trials, but the challenges were far from over. Now he would face the scrutiny of the alien court, where some suitors and nobles were still doubtful of his place beside the princess. Leora watched from her private garden as Elias approached the central hall. His steps were steady, his posture calm, and his expression determined. Despite whispers of doubt from the court, he walked with confidence, showing neither arrogance nor fear. Leora felt a sense of pride and hope. This human, ordinary in appearance but extraordinary in character, had already proven his courage and intelligence. Inside the hall, the rival suitors gathered, their expressions sharp and wary. Many had expected the human to fail, to be unable to handle the pressures of Virelian tradition. Some whispered schemes, planning to embarrass him or expose his weaknesses, but Elias paid them no attention. He focused only on the task at hand, earning the trust and respect of the princess and the court. The first test of the day was a trial of diplomacy. The participants were asked to negotiate a solution to a dispute between two alien factions. These factions had a long history of mistrust and hostility, and previous candidates had struggled to reach an agreement. Leora observed as Elias approached the problem carefully. He listened to each side, asking questions and clarifying details. He did not rush, nor did he try to dominate the conversation with power or threats. After hours of careful discussion, Elias proposed a compromise that was fair and reasonable. It was simple but thoughtful, and it appealed to both factions' sense of honor. The court watched in surprise. While many aliens had relied on displays of power or intimidation, Elias had used patience, empathy, and reasoning. The factions accepted his solution, and a quiet murmur of approval spread through the hall. Leora's heart lifted. She saw not only his skill but his respect for others, a quality far more important than strength or magic. The next challenge was a test of courage. Participants were asked to enter the Hall of Shadows, a vast chamber filled with shifting lights, illusions, and traps designed to confuse and intimidate. Many suitors hesitated at the threshold, unsure how to proceed. Elias, however, stepped forward calmly. He had no magical vision or alien senses to guide him. Instead, he relied on observation, careful steps, and steady focus. Inside, the illusions became more intense. Shadows formed shapes that seemed real, and whispers echoed through the chamber. Some aliens lost their composure, retreating in fear or striking at illusions in frustration. Elias, however, remained calm. He remembered his training and his instincts. He did not attack or flee. He moved with patience, recognizing which dangers were real and which were tricks. Slowly but surely, he reached the center of the chamber. When he emerged, the court applauded, not for power but for courage under pressure. Leora's admiration for him grew even stronger. The final challenge of the day tested loyalty and character. Participants were asked to make decisions that would reveal their true values. In one scenario, a simulated disaster threatened a group of alien villagers. Some suitors prioritized their own safety, rushing to the exit. Elias, however, acted with care. He ensured that everyone was safe before leaving the area. In another scenario, he had the opportunity to gain favor by taking credit for the success of others. Elias chose instead to acknowledge the contributions of his companions, demonstrating humility and fairness. By the end of the day, it was clear that Elias had passed every test. Yet the rival suitors were not willing to admit defeat. Some tried subtle sabotage, spreading rumors that humans were unworthy or incapable. Others whispered that the princess was being misled by her feelings rather than logic. Elias remained undisturbed. He had no need to argue or prove himself. His actions spoke for him, and Leora had already seen the truth. As evening approached, the princess and Elias walked together in the floating gardens. Leora's violet eyes reflected the soft glow of the luminescent flowers. "You have impressed me beyond measure," she said quietly. "Not because you are powerful, but because you are patient, thoughtful, and kind. These are the qualities I have been waiting for." Elias smiled. "I only did what I believed was right," he replied. I did not want to show off or pretend to be something I am not. I just wanted to do my best and respect everyone, especially you. Leora felt a warmth in her heart. She had seen countless suitors, each trying to dazzle her with skills or magic, yet none had touched her heart. Elias, with no powers or illusions, had shown her the most important things: courage, kindness, and understanding. In the days that followed, Elias continued to face the scrutiny of the court. Some nobles were still wary, questioning whether a human could truly belong in Virelia's royal traditions. Yet with each passing day, Elias proved himself. He learned the customs, respected the rules, and acted with patience. Slowly, even the skeptical courtiers began to admire him. They saw that his ordinary appearance hid extraordinary character. During this time, Leora and Elias spent hours together, sharing stories and learning from one another. She showed him the history of Virelia, the wonders of her floating gardens, and the mysteries of her people. He spoke of Earth, a world very different from Virelia, yet filled with courage, determination, and the desire to do good. They laughed, debated, and discovered a mutual respect that deepened their connection. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace, Leora and Elias walked along a bridge that spanned a sparkling river. The water reflected the light of the moons, creating a scene of serene beauty. Leora stopped and looked at him. "I feel as if I have known you much longer than I really have," she said softly. "You see me, Elias, not as a princess, not as a prize, but as a person. That is something no alien suitor has ever done." Elias took her hand gently. "And you have shown me a world I could never have imagined," he said. "I am grateful for every moment, every lesson, every chance to understand you and your people." In the palace, the story of Elias began to spread. The human who had arrived quietly, without fanfare or powers, had faced impossible challenges and emerged with honor. The rival suitors, once proud and boastful, could not deny his courage and wisdom. Leora's parents, the king and queen, saw the truth as well. They realized that Elias's ordinary appearance was irrelevant. What mattered was his heart, his integrity, and his ability to act with respect and courage. As the night settled over Virelia, Leora returned to her balcony, gazing at the stars above. She felt hope and excitement for the first time in years. Elias was more than a suitor. He was someone who could understand her, challenge her, and grow beside her. The human who had come forward when all alien suitors had refused was proving that love, respect, and courage could bridge even the greatest differences between worlds. And so, the story of Leora and Elias continued, a tale of unexpected connection, quiet courage, and the power of seeing the heart beneath appearances. The journey was far from over, but already it was clear that this human had changed the course of her life, and perhaps in time, the future of Virelia itself. The palace was filled with a sense of anticipation. Word had spread throughout Virelia that the princess was ready to make her choice. The great hall sparkled with floating crystals reflecting the light of the twin moons above. Courtiers, nobles, and the remaining suitors gathered, each waiting to witness the moment when Leora would announce who she would select as her companion. The air was thick with curiosity, expectation, and quiet tension. Leora stood on the balcony overlooking the hall. Her violet eyes scanned the faces below. Some suitors appeared confident, as though they expected to be chosen by right of power or status. Others looked uneasy, aware that their skills had not touched the heart of the princess. At the center of it all stood Elias, the human. Unlike the aliens who flaunted their strength and magic, he stood quietly, his posture calm, his eyes steady. He had no need to boast. His actions had already spoken for him. The king's voice rang out across the hall.
"Today, Princess Leora will declare her choice.
All are to remain silent and observe with respect. The decision rests with her alone." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some filled with curiosity, others with doubt. Many could not comprehend why a human, ordinary by alien standards, might be considered. Leora stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. Her voice, clear and gentle, carried throughout the hall. "For many years, suitors have come to this palace displaying strength, skill, and power. They hoped to win my hand with demonstrations of ability, yet none have truly understood me. They saw the princess, but they did not see the person beneath the title." Her gaze fell on Elias. He met her eyes without fear or pretense. She felt a deep sense of certainty. "Elias has shown me something extraordinary," she continued. "He has no magic, no powers beyond his mind, his courage, and his heart. Yet he has faced every trial with patience, wisdom, and respect. He listens, he understands, and he acts with care. In him I see the qualities that matter most. And so I choose Elias. The hall was stunned into silence. Aliens who had once flaunted their abilities stared in disbelief. Some whispered among themselves, questioning the wisdom of a human being chosen over their most powerful suitors. Yet Leora's eyes were calm and unwavering. She did not falter, for she had spoken the truth of her heart. Elias stepped forward slowly, bowing respectfully. "Princess Leora," he said, his voice steady, "I am honored by your trust and your choice. I promise to learn, to grow, and to respect you and your world with every action I take." His words were simple, yet they carried sincerity that no display of power could ever match. The king studied Elias carefully. For a long moment he remained silent. Then with a nod he spoke. "Elias, you have proven your worth through trials of courage, intelligence, and character. You have shown that true strength is not in power or magic but in the heart and mind. The court must accept the princess's decision." Applause and murmurs spread through the hall. Some courtiers were slow to accept it, still unsure of the human's place among alien nobility. Others began to nod in respect, recognizing the qualities that Leora had valued all along. The rival suitors, proud and boastful just days before, now lowered their heads, understanding that victory was not measured in power alone. Leora walked toward Elias, her steps confident and graceful. "You have faced so much," she said softly. "Not only the trials, but the doubt of this court. You have done so with humility and patience. That is why I trust you." Elias took her hand gently. "And you have given me the chance to learn, to understand, and to be part of a world I never imagined," he replied. "I am grateful for your trust, Princess." The remaining suitors were called forward to formally acknowledge the choice. Each stepped forward, bowing or nodding to Elias with varying degrees of acceptance. Some were quick to offer congratulations, while others were silent, perhaps still wrestling with pride. Leora's parents observed with thoughtful expressions. They had seen the human's determination, his intelligence, and his kindness. Slowly they began to understand why their daughter had chosen him. That evening the palace celebrated quietly, not with grand displays of power, but with shared meals, music, and laughter. Aliens and humans alike mingled, watching as the princess and her chosen companion walked together. The floating gardens were illuminated with soft lights, reflecting off streams of water and glass-like surfaces. Flowers of many colors swayed gently in the breeze. Leora and Elias explored together, learning more about each other's worlds, sharing stories and laughing in moments of simple joy. Despite the celebrations, challenges remained. Many in the court still questioned how a human could fit into Virelian society. Would he understand their customs? Could he earn the respect of alien officials? Elias remained patient. He listened, observed, and acted with care, never trying to force his way or impose himself. Slowly, respect grew where doubt had once lingered. In private, Leora spoke with Elias about the future. "There will be difficulties," she said. "Some will never fully accept you. Some may try to challenge your place, but I trust you. I trust your heart, your mind, and your courage." Elias nodded. "I will face every challenge with respect and care. I will honor this choice and I will honor you, Princess," he replied. His words were simple, but they carried a promise that mattered more than any show of magic or power. Over the next days, Leora and Elias continued to grow closer. She introduced him to the traditions of Virelia, the history of her family, and the secrets of the floating gardens. He shared stories of Earth, of humans who faced challenges without powers, relying on courage, kindness, and intelligence. Together they laughed, debated, and learned, discovering a connection deeper than either had expected. The court began to notice. Aliens who had once doubted Elias now approached him with respect. Nobles asked his advice, seeing wisdom in his perspective. Even rival suitors who had hoped to claim the princess began to acknowledge the human's qualities. Slowly, Elias became a part of the palace, not through magic or power, but through heart, intelligence, and respect. One night, as the twin moons reflected off the palace walls, Leora and Elias stood on a balcony, looking at the glowing city below. "I feel as if this choice was not only about me," Leora said softly. "It is about showing everyone that strength comes in many forms, and that courage and kindness matter more than power." Elias smiled. "And it is about learning from each other, Princess. about finding common ground even between very different worlds. I am grateful for every moment, every lesson, and every chance to understand you. The night air was calm, filled with the soft hum of the palace and the distant light of stars. Leora felt hope and joy for the first time in years. The human who had come forward when all alien suitors had refused had not only won her heart but had begun to change the hearts of those around them. Together they had shown that respect, courage, and understanding could bridge even the greatest differences. And so, as the night settled over Virelia, Leora and Elias prepared for the days ahead. The path would not be without challenges, but they faced it together, united by trust, respect, and a bond that no power or tradition could break. The human who had dared to step forward had proven that the heart often knows what the eyes cannot see, and the princess knew that this was only the beginning of their shared story. The palace of Virelia was calm in the early morning light. Soft beams of violet and silver filtered through the high windows, casting gentle patterns on the crystal floors. The great trials had ended, the decision had been made, and the princess's choice had been accepted by most of the court. Yet the journey for Leora and Elias was only beginning. Life together would require understanding, patience, and courage. Elias rose early, walking through the floating gardens before the day's activities began. He breathed in the gentle fragrance of alien flowers and felt the soft hum of energy in the air. To many he might have seemed ordinary, but to Leora he was extraordinary. She had seen his courage, patience, and kindness, and she knew that he had the heart to face whatever lay ahead. Leora joined him quietly, her violet eyes reflecting the soft morning light. "Good morning," she said, smiling softly. "Are you ready for today?" Elias turned to her with a gentle smile. "I am ready, princess," he said. "Today is another chance to learn, to grow, and to show respect for this world. And for you." Together they walked among the streams and flowers, sharing thoughts and laughter. The palace staff watched with quiet admiration. Humans were rare on Virelia, and many still whispered about how this one had captured the princess's heart. Yet Elias did not flaunt his place. He acted with humility, listening carefully to traditions, learning the ways of the palace, and showing kindness to everyone he met. The first challenge of the day was integration. Elias was to participate in ceremonies and rituals that had been part of Virelia's history for centuries. Some of these were intricate and demanding, filled with steps, chants, and precise movements. Many had doubted whether a human could learn them, but Elias observed closely, asked respectful questions, and practiced with patience. During a ceremony in the grand hall, Elias followed each step correctly, not perfectly but with sincerity. Leora watched him, feeling her heart swell. This was not about flawless performance. It was about effort, respect, and willingness to embrace a new world. The court too noticed. Their whispers shifted from doubt to quiet admiration. Later, the couple faced a diplomatic meeting with representatives from distant planets. These aliens had heard of the human who had been chosen by the princess, and some approached with caution, unsure how to interact with him. Elias remained calm. He listened attentively, asked questions, and offered ideas respectfully. The representatives were impressed by his ability to understand problems without relying on alien powers or supernatural abilities. "This human is remarkable," one elder whispered to another. "He may not have magic, but he has wisdom and patience." Leora felt pride and happiness. She saw that the qualities she valued, heart, mind, and courage, were beginning to inspire respect in the hearts of others. The princess had chosen wisely, not because of appearance or status, but because of character. The days passed with new lessons and experiences. Elias learned the history of the Virelian people, their traditions, and the ways of their world. He shared stories of Earth, of humans who faced challenges with courage and creativity. Together, he and Leora discovered that learning from each other's worlds created a bond that grew stronger every day. Yet not all doubts had vanished. A few nobles remained skeptical, unsure that a human could truly fit into the royal court. One evening, a small group confronted Elias politely but firmly. "You are different," they said. "We respect your courage, but can a human truly understand our ways? Can you lead alongside the princess when the time comes?" Elias listened carefully. He did not respond with arrogance or anger. "I may be different," he said quietly, "but I am willing to learn. I will respect your customs, your rules, and your people, I do not claim to know everything, but I will always act with care and respect. The nobles studied him in silence. Slowly they nodded. His words were simple yet sincere. It was clear that Elias did not seek power for himself. He sought understanding, cooperation, and harmony. Their skepticism softened, replaced by cautious respect. Meanwhile, Leora walked beside Elias in the floating gardens. She marveled at how his ordinary appearance hid extraordinary qualities. "You have faced every doubt with patience," she said softly. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and kindness. That is why I trust you now and always." Elias took her hand gently. "And you have shown me a world full of wonder and wisdom," he said. "I am grateful for every moment, every lesson, and every chance to understand you and your people. Together, we can face anything." The palace soon prepared a public celebration of their union. Aliens from distant planets were invited, curious to witness the human who had won the princess's heart. The event was not about magic or power, but about unity, respect, and friendship. Decorations of floating crystals and glowing flowers filled the halls. Music resonated softly, harmonizing with the natural hum of Virelia's energy. During the celebration, Leora and Elias walked among the guests. They greeted everyone with warmth and humility. Aliens who had once doubted Elias now approached him with respect, asking his advice, sharing their own stories, and offering congratulations. The princess's parents smiled, seeing that their daughter's choice had brought harmony and understanding, bridging worlds in ways they had never imagined. Later, in a quiet moment, Leora and Elias returned to the balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons glowed softly above, casting silver and violet light across the floating towers. Leora leaned gently against Elias, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "Not just for me, but for this kingdom. You have shown that courage, kindness, and patience matter more than power or magic." Elias smiled, holding her hand. "And you have shown me the beauty of a world I never imagined. We have learned from each other, and that is more powerful than any magic. Together we can face every challenge, and together we can build something better." The story of Leora and Elias spread across Virelia and beyond. The human who had dared to step forward when all alien suitors had refused became a symbol of courage, humility, and love. Young aliens and humans alike whispered of the princess who chose heart over power, and of the human who proved that respect, patience, and kindness could change the course of lives and kingdoms. Years later, when Elias and Leora walked among the gardens, watched by the citizens of Virelia, it was clear that their bond had endured. They faced challenges together, learned from each other's worlds, and inspired all who witnessed their story. Their life was a testament to the power of heart, courage, and understanding, showing that love and respect could bridge even the greatest differences between worlds. And so, the human who had stepped forward when all alien suitors refused became not just a companion, but a partner, a friend, and a leader alongside the princess. Together they built a future of harmony, trust, and hope. A story that would be remembered for generations. A story that began when one human dared to be different, dared to be brave, and dared to care.